Hey guys, how you doing? Today I'm going to do something a little different. This will be a review of the game Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries and its DLC, Heroes of the Inner Sphere. But I feel that to do it right, I need to take a deeper dive into the source material. Some of you may know the history that led up to this game, but I suspect that many of you do not. I've had the pleasure to watch this IP grow from a small, obscure tabletop game into the video game franchise that many of us have come to know and love. I think that when you deal with a gaming franchise like Fallout or Diablo, you have to note what came before in order to place the current game into its proper context. So with that said, let's start from the beginning. A very good place to start. In 1984, a tabletop game development company by the name of FASA published a new tactical armored combat game set in the 31st century. This game was different, at least as far as I knew at the time, in that it used massive armored robots to slug it out on the battlefield with lasers, missiles, autocannons, and a plethora of other fantastic weapons. George Lucas, who I really admire and I enjoy his work, had claimed the rights to the term droids, so they changed the name to battletech. I was hooked by the first match. I played the game for about 3 years until life and career got in the way and I had to put my miniatures away. They weren't painted very well anyway. There were some legal troubles between FASA and some Japanese robot designs that I won't delve into here. Let's just say that some beloved mechs had to disappear for a few years. I truly missed my Warhammer. I missed the first video game in the series, Activision's Mechwarrior, that released in 1989 for the Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Super Nintendo and there was no internet to speak of back then. Yes, I know the net existed, but for an 18-year-old kid in East Texas, it most certainly was not on my radar at the time. It does break the heart that the first Mechwarrior game was on a console. Evidently it did get a PC port, but Wiki says that was only available in Japan. My first experience with Mechwarrior came in 1995 with Activision's Mechwarrior 2. This game blew me away, if you'll forgive the pun. I absolutely loved it. I was working long hours at the time, and this game was a welcome diversion from that time in my life. I remember driving halfway across town so I could get a new Matrox Mystique. I remember how blown away I was when I found that my mechs now had camo. It was a whole new world. Next, in 1999, we got Mechwarrior 3 from Microprose. This game had better graphics than Mechwarrior 2, and to be honest, I don't remember much about it. It was a very long time ago and my CRS disease is acting up. Can't remember shit. According to my flaky memory and wiki, these games do not seem to contain an open galactic map. They were heavily scripted, but I do recall some of the missions being quite involved. They were a lot of fun, and I remember them fondly. Now we come to the game that I think many of us will remember, Mechwarrior 4. The base game came out in 2000 and was published by Microsoft and FASA. The expansion Black Knight was released in 2001, but I think the title that most of us remember is the 2002 Mercenaries expansion for this game. My sons and I played both the retail version and the MechTech versions. I still have the files on CD-ROM. When I think of old Mechwarrior games, this is the game that leaps to mind. This game was unique in that you could control 2 lances of mechs for a total of 8 units under your command. The campaign was serviceable, if not good compared to other battletech video games. You could customize your mechs in the mech bay, which allowed for some very interesting, if not totally broken, mech loadouts. The Solaris Mech Arena was a fun diversion in which you fought your way up the ranks and tonnage classes to become the ultimate mech gladiator. Mechwarrior 4 Mercenaries was, for me at least, the best battletech video game up to that point. I would reinstall and return to the game off and on for years, waiting for Mechwarrior 5.
Scorpio, proceed to the palace. Be advised, multiple hostile sightings between your location and the palace grounds.
And then it happened. In 2009, this trailer appeared, seemingly from nowhere. and the hype train left the station with most of the Mechwarrior fanboys, me included, gleefully clinging to the sides. The hype train then ran into the side of the Harmony Gold Legal Mountain, killing thousands of fanboys and their dreams of driving a Warhammer. I heard at the time that the same legal woes that caused the seen-unseen debacle in battletech brought this project to its knees. I cannot find much reliable information about this aborted game, so I will move on. I will say it looks like it would have been a slower-paced take on Mechwarrior, and I, for one, would have enjoyed playing it. Oh well. You just have to move on. I'm not going to go into depth about the next step in Mechwarrior. It's a mod called Mechwarrior Living Legends. I tried it. I didn't like it. I know a lot of people did like it. And Living Legends has a kind of a sordid history that I really don't want to get into. So I'm just going to move on to the next official title in the history of Mechwarrior. Now we arrive in the PGI era of Mechwarrior game development. On September 17th, 2013, Mechwarrior Online was released by Piranha Games, or PGI for short. The aborted trailer from 2009 seems to be an early attempt by the creators of Mechwarrior Online to get a new Mechwarrior title under development. MWO was and remains unique in the Mechwarrior franchise in that it is a solely multiplayer game. In Mechwarrior 4, we had some online play, but this time, multiplayer was the focus of the new iteration of Mechwarrior. In my opinion, MWO succeeded in two key areas: Mech Combat and the mech models themselves. This game did the best job to date of replicating the verisimilitude of driving a mech in the 31st century. How the mechs moved and responded, as well as weapon performance, was the best we'd seen. The appearance and art style of the mechs was truly impressive. The art designers of this game nailed the look of mechs. They made iconic mechs like the Atlas and Catapult look even cooler, while they took ridiculous-looking chassis and improved them dramatically. MWO had its problems: pinpoint front-loaded damage, pop-tarting mechs, and ghost heat. But it did succeed in bringing a whole new generation of players to the Mechwarrior fold. The gameplay could get stale. It was essentially a slower-paced first-person shooter with a cool mech bay. But once you tired of fiddling with different mech loadouts, there really wasn't much to do. The community warfare was a mixed bag, and the limited standard battle types soon became stale. The only reason I played it for years was the group of friends I made in the game. So, PGI decided that Mechwarrior needed to return to its single-player roots. In 2019, we got Mechwarrior 5. I watched the game's development with a passing interest. I was skeptical that PGI would listen to the community and make the necessary changes to MWO that it would need to make the jump back to single-player. I did not buy the game right away. I waited for about a month before taking the plunge. I only played for about 40 hours, and then I walked away. I found the game to be very disappointing. I suspected that PGI lacked the storytelling chops and the expertise in battletech lore that a single-player game would need, and I feel my fears were confirmed. I did not make a review of the initial release because, to me, it was a big old 5 out of 10. I could not bring myself to make such a critical video of a gaming franchise so dear to my heart, so I kept my mouth shut, which I know is rare for me. Well, the times have changed, and so have I. The DLC, Heroes of the Inner Sphere, is out, and I have about 200 hours in-game. I think I finally have enough to go on. Enough data, enough experience, and enough time to make an informed assessment of this game. Let's just say, it's a mixed bag. So, for those not in the know, let's start with the basics. Mechwarrior 5 is an armored combat simulation, played from either the first-person perspective of the vehicle's cockpit or a third-person view from just over the shoulder of said armored vehicle. The game is set in the 31st century, a time when humanity has settled hundreds of worlds in and around the Terran system. This area of settled space is known as the Inner Sphere. About 300 years before the events in the game, the Inner Sphere was governed by the Star League, a single galactic government that kept the peace among the feudal great houses that ruled smaller segments of humanity. In the late 28th century, the Amara Civil War broke out. This was essentially a coup attempt to seize control of the Star League. The coup was averted, but the Star League was essentially destroyed by the conflict. The remnants of the Star League fled to parts unknown, which will become very important later. And then all hell broke loose. Without the Star League Defense Force there to keep the peace, the feudal great houses of the Inner Sphere began the First Succession War in an attempt to fill the power vacuum. Now, the Inner Sphere is in a state of constant war, and the weapon of choice is the battletech. You play as the commander of a small mercenary company. You must try to avenge the death of your father, if you choose to play the main campaign, and at the same time negotiate your way among the various factions of the Inner Sphere, trying to earn a living and keep your merc company afloat. I personally found the main story to be rather uninteresting. It's missing any emotional or historical punch and left me lacking any interest in it, or the characters involved in it. The reason I call the main story largely forgettable is because I have literally forgotten it. I had to go look it up on Wiki and replay some of it so I could remember what the hell happened. You could be forgiven, being new to the franchise, if you thought that skill piloting your mech would be the most important pillar of gameplay in this game. And while it is important to be a good mech pilot, it is just as important to be a shrewd businessman and politician. You must understand how to maximize profits and minimize costs if you want to keep your merc company from bankruptcy. You must also find a way to negotiate the various factions of the Inner Sphere. It is impossible to make everyone happy, so you need to identify who you will keep as allies and who you will make into enemies. As with MWO, this game shines with its mech combat. The mechs just feel right. They stomp along with the right feel of weight and momentum. A 100-ton Atlas should not feel like an F1 racing car, and it doesn't. The impact of weapons seems spot on to me, but the sound of some of the weapons are a bit off, maybe a bit tinny, not quite enough bass on some of the bigger autocannons. I have encountered several cases of arm-mounted projectile weapons, rounds not going where they were aimed. This is very difficult to evaluate. Some of these incidents can be as simple as a mistaken impression by yours truly. Others seem to be caused when either the firing mech or the target steps on something that throws off the aim point at the very last second. I have found some cases that I cannot ascribe to either cause. I suspect it could be due to the somewhat murky realm of the pilot character's mech skills, but it could also be a buggy targeting system. This doesn't appear to happen to beam weapons like lasers, so I personally suspect there is a bug with projectile weapons. I'm not sure. The game's economy does not work as well as it should, or as it could. The game is divided into three basic types of star systems: non-functional, industrial hubs, and combat zones. Non-functioning systems do nothing. Industrial hubs appear as zodiacal-style patterns on the star map. These systems have the best industrial facilities. It is in these systems that the player will find the best mechs for sale, the best weapons, the best pilots, and the best rates for repairing damaged mechs. The combat zones are just that, where you go to fight. The trick is that the mech repairs are much higher in these zones, and they take much longer. This is important because travel between systems takes time and costs money. Missions also take time, sometimes weeks at the higher levels. You have monthly expenses that you must meet, so the longer it takes for you to repair your mechs, the more money you lose to this expenditure. This expenditure includes the salaries for your mech pilots and the monthly cost for each of the mechs you have in your drop deck. You can move mechs into cold storage and they no longer count towards this monthly expense. In the initial release, the rates of increased repair cost and repair time did not match up with what the player was truly charged. This seems to be fixed at the time of the DLC's release. The reasons for the game's economy not working as well as possible boil down to the salvage system and its problems. The way it's supposed to work is rather simple. If you defeat a mech in combat during a mission, you have a chance to get that mech as salvage after the battle. This is a staple of battletech. So, you are encouraged to kill mechs without causing excessive damage, and you damn sure do not core mechs out. This results in the fusion reactor found in the chest exploding, ruining your salvage. Normally, you go for headshots or take out your opponent's legs. It's important for you to understand that most of your wealth will come from salvage. So, if this system is not working properly, the entire pillar of the economic game is thrown out of balance. The problem with this is that this is not how Mechwarrior 5 handles mech salvage. A headshot is still your best chance at salvage, but those are difficult to achieve and take training and experience to pull off on a regular basis. The normal tactic of legging your opponent doesn't work with this game. Currently, legging only gives you a tiny chance of salvaging a mech, while coring out a mech gives you a 50-50 chance. There's a mod to fix this, but a game should not rely on mods to fix something so important. The salvage system is further borked at the mission level. In this game, you get negotiation points to spend on 4 categories: cash payout, salvage, insurance for mech damage, and airstrikes. Your negotiation points are predicated on how good your reputation is with the faction offering the mission. This is pretty straightforward for the cash, insurance, and airstrikes. The problem is with the salvage points. The variation on how many salvage points you get per negotiation point and how many negotiation points you're allowed to spend on salvage varies. This variation seems to be somewhat random. On one mission, you're allowed to spend 7 of 7 negotiation points on salvage. On another, you can spend 11 of 11. This is in the same campaign with the same save game. On one mission, you get 3 points of salvage per negotiation point spent, and on another you get 4. I suppose this is done to make contracts appear to vary, or to make the negotiation process appear to be more complex than it really is. But really all it does is piss me off. If I have 16 negotiation points and I want to dump them all into salvage, I should be able to do so. If I want to put them all into insurance, I should be able to do so. It's usually a bad idea to do these things, but the choice should be left up to the player, not to some arbitrary limit set by the developers. Another major problem with the salvage system comes down to how mechs are valued once they are available for salvage at the end of the mission. Each mech comes with a base salvage value. That salvage value is then lowered based on how much damage you do to the mech during the mission to kill it. The problem is that if you kill a fresh mech with a headshot, something you would normally want to do, the mech then costs you more salvage points to claim at the end of the mission because it's in a better state of repair. It's worth more. This discourages players from acting rationally. It incentivizes players to take off arms and legs before killing an expensive mech in order to ensure that they can claim it at the end of a mission. I found myself unable to claim powerful mechs, like say one of the first assault mechs I faced in the campaign, because I killed the mech too quickly and efficiently. Again, you can fix this with a mod, but I am not evaluating mods in this video. I'm reviewing the game PGI delivered when we paid our money for this piece of software, and that software has a problem with its salvage system. For me, this is a very big deal. As I have explained in other videos, I believe that if I want a powerful new piece of equipment, and if I have to fight the owner of that piece of equipment, I expect to be able to loot said shiny piece of gear after the mission or quest. This system routinely deprived me of that opportunity, and it left a very bad taste in my mouth. For decades, the Mechwarrior games have been about more than just your performance in a single mech. You are running a merc company, and that means you will have AI lance mates. To put it mildly, the AI in this game is hit or miss. See what I did there? You hire mech warriors to join your cadre. They have mech skills like piloting and gunnery that seem to improve their performance. PGI has confirmed that there is a passive shielding effect that increases with their base skill levels. So the higher the AI pilot's level, the less damage he or she takes during a mission. The problem is that I have seen both rookie and ace pilots pull bonehead shots, like firing LRMs without a lock, or attempting to shoot through the base of a hill when the target is on the other side of said hill. AI lance mates can simply lock up at seemingly random times. I have seen the AI bug out in the same spot of the map when I gave them the order to attack the same turret only 20 or so meters away. This kind of behavior is amusing when it's just you and the turret, but imagine if this happens in the middle of a major engagement. You are busy, trying to stay alive under withering fire, while your 3 lance mates just stand there. Upon initial release, there was little reason to give your lance mates jump jets. They never used them. I had heard that the AI now would use the jets, so I equipped a few light mechs with them. I regretted it. I had a Javelin. It was early in the campaign. This is a 30-ton light mech. I saw it jump up onto a balcony roof of an office building during one mission. He then became bugged and would not move. An enemy tank moved into the city, which I did not see at first, and destroyed my lance mate by firing through his thin rear armor. You must remember that the economics of managing a merc company is a major part of this game. This part of the game can be quite punishing for a first-time player, and even for a veteran. If you go bankrupt, it's game over. You've lost. This is all well and good, but when the bad AI costs you millions of C-bills for a destroyed mech, it ruins the experience. I understand that from time to time I will lose a mech. That's part of being a merc commander. But when I lose the mech because the AI bugged out and just stood there, that I cannot stand. Okay, so I've been kind of hard on the game, but I've been trying to be thorough. So you can take my opinions and my analyses and use them to try to inform your own decision. One positive part of this game is the mech bay. It's a lot of fun, I think. I think it's an absolute hoot to get in here, to get under the hood, to fiddle around with your mechs, to try different weapon loadouts, different weapon configurations, different weapon groupings, and to roll this through your lance and see what works for you. That level of tinkering is a lot of fun. I think it's very well done. Mechwarrior has tried several different iterations and different policy types for the mech bay since as far back as I can remember. And granted, once again, I'm having a hard time accessing my brain here lately, and for different reasons. Age is part of it, real life is part of it, lack of coffee is part of it. But the mech bay is a lot of fun in this game. I think it's well done. There was a mech bay bug, but they fixed it, and I mean this was only, I think this was just a few months or a month after the release of the DLC. It was a bad one. It was a bad mech bay bug, and it could cost you a lot of in-game money and a lot of in-game time because of how the process of swapping weapons in and out was borked for several weeks. But they did fix it, so kudos to them for fixing it, and I'm not going to knock them on it. So I've been talking a long time about this game. I apologize for how lengthy this review is, but like I said, I really wanted to be thorough, be honest, and give you my reasons, to elaborate on those reasons. You know, I don't do 5-minute quick hits. Oh, this game's great, everyone should buy it. This game sucks, no one should look at it. I don't think that's useful. I think game reviews, in their usefulness and in their utility, go up exponentially when the reviewer takes his or her time to explain their reasoning and to defend their position. I'm trained as a scientist. That's what we do. We take in, analyze it, and then we form arguable conclusions from that data. And then we're trained how to defend it, and we're also trained how to change our minds and how to back off once it's been established that we're wrong. So this game, for me, I have to be really careful because, as you can tell, I'm a big battletech fanboy. I'm a big Mechwarrior fanboy. For me, the game's an 8. It's excellent. For me. There are problems. I've talked about those problems. And so for you, when you're trying to decide, should I buy this game, you have to decide how important the combat is to you. And so if the combat, because the combat's very good. It's just very good. It's got problems, but it's still very good. The mech bay is very good. The free form roaming around the galaxy and managing your merc company is very good. It's a lot of fun. And so if those are things that you prioritize over things like story, if you can get around the bad AI for your lance mates, if you're okay with a less than stellar story, or if the story doesn't matter to you at all, you could care less, this is definitely a game for you. You know, if you're a big Mechwarrior fan, if you're a big battletech fan, and you like driving your mechs as opposed to, you know, positioning them carefully and tactically on the map, this is an absolute slam dunk for you. If those things aren't as important to you, if you want more lore, if you want more world building, if you want more story, this might not be such a great fit for you. But for me, it's just so much fun to get in the big stompy robot and smash through buildings and cave in other mechs, CTs, hear that Gauss rifle go off, hear that heavy rifle sling that big fucking Toyota truck with 10 tons of TNT in the back at somebody else and watch it blow up. Yeah, I like that. If you like that. I like collecting mechs. If you like collecting mechs, you're going to love this game. If you love this kind of combat, you're going to love this game. And so it's definitely, I have to be really careful with the 8, and you have to be really careful with my 8, because I'm a fanboy. I love battletech. If you're not a fanboy, and if you don't like this kind of combat, and if story is really important to you, and if lore is really important to you, you're not going to like this game as much as I do. I wish this was one of the all-time great games, but it's not. And so, yeah, for me, it's an 8. I hope you enjoyed the review. I worked really hard on this. I spent weeks on this. This is my moonshot when it comes to editing, and I'm gonna wrap it up. And I hope to see you next time. Let's like, subscribe, and share. The channel's growing. I'm trying to get it going. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.